I gave an opening spiel and then realized I hadn't pressed the go live button. So again, welcome to those of you who are here. We are here tonight with Robin Melvin, author of the book Uncover Your Divine Design, which launched today. So just really thrilled to have you here, Robin. Go ahead, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited. This day felt like it would never come because I almost quit so many times. But I'm just so excited to see you all here today, and I'm ready to chat.
Terrific. Okay, well, let all of you know that are here. We have actually 4 giveaways tonight. Robin is giving 2 signed copies of her paperback, a journal, and we will also be giving away a copy of the ebook. But in order to be entered to win any of these fantastic prizes, you need to put a comment into the stream. And during the evening, we will be looking at the comments. If you have questions for Robin, by all means, put those in the comments so that we can put them up there for Robin to answer. And I guess let's just get started. I'm going to throw a really tough question at you right now, Robin. You mentioned earlier about the burden that lifted off when you finally had the manuscript done. How long was the book actually in process?
Wow. Well, I have to say probably just short of 8 years. I think it was the fall of 2014 when I finally dug in. I had the crazy idea to write this book, and very kind of naively thinking I was just going to go in and, yeah, God, we're going to duke it out, and I can see these things now that I can, we can heal them and write this book. Well, for one thing, I was still learning how to write. So it's definitely learning as I go. So yeah, pretty much 8 years. And of course, life happening in between, right? I did shelve the book, a few times, partly because I tried to quit a few times because it got really hard. And also just life happens, and God, you have to give yourself the grace. God would always remind me, give yourself the grace when so many things are happening. It really wasn't my priority. Other things were my priority at the time, things that were going on with family or just my own health or whatever. So yeah, 8 years pretty much. So
that's not bad, really. I mean, when I think about some of my books, I mean, they were much longer in the process, but mostly because I had to get beyond, I had to get to a certain point of healing. And I'm sure that you had to reach that same thing. When we're writing about things, wounds that we've incurred, we have to make sure that we're healed before we really talk about them. So yeah.
That's a really good point, because I'm glad you brought that up. That was a huge factor in it taking so long as well, because I literally walked through this book step by step. I mean, every word, everything I wrote was me learning it and living it and getting healed of a lot of things and growing, in my faith. So
that makes it hard. I mean, it's nice. So you found that as you were writing, did you find that you were gaining a deeper healing in some areas?
As I was writing, yes. My husband just stepped on the cat. I don't know if you heard that screech. So I kind of anyway, deeper healing, absolutely. So the subject, Uncover Your Divine Design, it was God really showing me these things I needed to uncover that I thought were already healed, different depths of anger and unforgiveness I was holding on to, things like that. The sense of low value and this voicelessness that I feel like I came into adulthood with. Scarcity mindset, victim mindset, being a chameleon, just kind of blending in and going with the flow, and things like that. So yeah, a lot of fears and things that he was showing me. So I literally was working on them and learning to heal through those things. In fact, halfway through the book, when I hit chapter 7, it was changing so much because I just thought I was going to I had my chapters already named and I thought, boom, 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 here we go. And then about chapter 7, God decided, well, he probably knew all along, but he wanted it to change. And I was trying to keep it the same. And there was a whole lot of things that were happening in my life at the time with me physically and just some family members and very difficult things going on. And so me trying to make this book go a certain way, I just kind of went, and so right in the middle of the book, I had to go and see a therapist. I saw her about 6 months just to help me talk through a lot of the things. So that helped me in my healing as well, to have her walk with me through some of the stuff and bounce it all off of her. So.
And that's awesome. And that's one of the things I loved about your book was that you actually shared that in the book.
Yeah.
You know, what happened. It's like, you know, I'm writing this and suddenly boom, you know. And not everyone would be that open to share something like that. So, okay, so that's the tough part of writing. What is your favorite part about the writing process?
Wow. My favorite part of the writing process. I think, gosh, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's been a while since I've really dug in to write. I've written a few little things here and there. I think just when you can sit down, maybe without an agenda, and just write what's like maybe something in the morning that struck me, whether I was reading something in the Bible or something funny somebody said, and I can just sit down and start tapping away about it and not really having to have a deadline with it. Yeah. And actually another thing, now that I'm thinking about it, that did take me so long to get my book done is I love to edit. So I guess that is kind of one of my favorite parts of writing, unfortunately, because I don't know if you picked up on that, Deborah, and our going back and forth through these last year or two, because you are my editor. But yeah, I would overthink and over edit. I would edit as I go, and sometimes that just kills it, you know. But I loved to do it. So that was an easy way for me to kind of distract myself from the hard part of writing. Like, I got to get this done today, or I got to push through this chapter and I don't know where it's going. So maybe I would just start out by editing and get distracted and do that. And then I could kind of procrastinate. So, but I do love that. I feel like I could probably maybe make some money off that someday because I like that part.
Yeah, and you're one of the few people, I think, of all the authors here in Cross River, there's not that many that say they like to edit.
Yeah.
There's one or two, but not that many. And even the writers that I know, they tend to be really uncomfortable with the process of editing.
I love it. I think it's just because I like words so much, and you go through it, you go to a sentence, and the fact that you can make it just so much more concise. And as a friend used to say, you can make your words sing. You know, you can find that word. I love thesauruses. I love dictionaries. I love finding that word, you know, that just says it so much better. So
yeah. I love one of the websites I like to use when I'm looking for synonyms is Word Hippo. What do you use?
Oh gosh, I think just write in my Word document where you can just hit the little wherever that is on your screen. I don't even remember now. You hit thesaurus, and they just drop down, and you can kind of scroll through them. That's pretty much it. But I do have my hard copy of my thesaurus, the big yellow, you know, hard copy that I would open that every now and then too to leaf through the pages because I like that as well. Kind of homeschool, or not homeschool, old school.
Old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, real paper. It's tough for me to think that that's old school because that's really what I prefer.
Yeah.
And some books just totally do not work on Kindle. You know, I have a manual that I use in editing, and I only have it in Kindle, and I absolutely hate it because I have to search. I have to do a search. I can't just run to the index, right? I don't know. Some things just need to be hard copy.
I agree.
So
I agree.
it's 10 after. Let's go ahead and do our first drawing. Dee Dee Lake is here with us tonight in the background. She's going to be drawing the winners for our prizes. I do want to encourage you guys, leave questions for Robin. That's why she's here. We're here to pick her brain tonight and, find out more about her and the things that she likes.
Yeah. Don't be shy, y'all. Type something in there.
There you go. Yeah.
You're not going to win unless you get in there. So just do it.
Okay, so our first winner is Lori Ferris.
Yay, Lori!
So, do you already have her address? Or
no.
Okay, so Lori, go ahead. How do you want to do this, Robin? Do you want them to email you your information, or do you want them to email us?
They can email me. That's fine. Either way.
Okay. So what's your email?
RobinKMelvin@gmail.com.
So,
and what is she winning, ladies?
A signed paperback copy.
Yay!
So, Dee, if you could go ahead and put that in the comments section for Lori, reply to Lori's comment or something, so she's got that address. Okay, well, so congratulations, Lori. I know you're gonna love it. Just FYI, Robin has not received her books yet, so might have to wait another week or two before it comes to you in the mail, but she will get it to you. So
I will get it out as soon as I get home.
Yeah, and it's definitely not her fault that she didn't have those books. It's called the supply chain and demand. We have the book. We sent the book off to the printers like last month.
Over 5 weeks ago, at least.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just takes, July and August are very busy months for a lot of printers because they're busy printing textbooks.
Yeah.
So at any rate, she will get it mailed out to you just as soon as she's got it. Okay, so let's move on to some other questions. What was your inspiration for the book?
Wow, my inspiration for the book. Yeah. Well, in 2013, my daughter graduated high school, my last child, actually my youngest child. And I was pretty excited. I've been a mom since I was 18. Worked outside the home, just accumulative, maybe a few years in the matter of how many years was it that I'd been married? 25 years by then? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, it took a long time. Military wife and just had a lot of things going on as moms do. We get caught up in the things that we do and who we do it for. It's just our job. It's what we do. We're nurturers. So, when she graduated, I was pretty excited to kind of figure out something else. Like what am I going to do in the next season of my life? I was 49 years old and very excited, but I was just all kind of tangled up. I had some ideas of what I wanted to do, but couldn't decide. And it really became apparent to me that I feel like this is not right. I shouldn't be this fearful of stepping into something. So I was talking to a friend. She's actually a clinical psychologist, so that's a bonus. But as we were talking, she realized that I was really bound up. And for some reason, I couldn't even think of one goal or one dream besides just doing something to help people, maybe getting some college courses in different fields or whatever. So she just kept digging away, and as good counselors do. And she asked me about my childhood, and I realized that day that my value and my voice had really been I had low value, and I really wasn't the type to have a big voice about things and speak up about things. And part of that's my personality, but a lot of it was just fearfulness. And so I left that day, and I was still really excited because I was like, yeah, now I know these things. I see these things in myself, and me and God, we're going to knock these out of there, and I'm going to get some healing, and I'm just going to be stronger than ever. And so she had asked me the question in her office, if you could do anything you wanted. In fact, this is the first line of my book. If you could do anything you wanted, no limits on time or resources, what would you do? And that's when I was just like, she could not pull anything out of me. Anyway, fast forward, I get in my minivan that day, and I'm still thinking about that question. And I open the visor, and I just kind of look at myself, talking to myself, I guess. And I said, I know what I'll do. I'll write a book. And so that was the inspiration. And like I said before, it was kind of a naive declaration because I didn't really know what that entailed. I had been studying writing for a while through some different courses and stuff. And so I thought, yeah, I'm just going to write this book and knock out these chapters. Now that I know I have kind of a victim mindset, and I've been a little voiceless, and I have low value. So those were all great chapters that were forming in my head. And I thought we would just knock it right out. But that's what inspired it. Came to kind of a midlife thing where I found myself stuck and not knowing really who I was. I didn't really know who God had designed me to be. And so that's pretty much it. So
I love your comment. Just knock these chapters out.
Yeah, isn't that hilarious?
And you actually kind of answered Lori's question about when did you know your experiences would become a book? And when did it become apparent that it should be in book form? You touched on that in the answer that you just gave, but so really that was the moment when that whole idea cemented for you?
Yeah, it did. And it took me about a year, though, to really move forward because I was still kind of bound up. Like, oh, I can't spend the money on more writing courses, or I can't, how do I even do this? Just all of that. So I had to work through all of that junk. And so it was almost a year before I really dug in. And my courses were excellent courses, Christian Writers Guild. And it would bring you out, like it would ask you your big idea, and so that's what it started with, that big idea of our identity is where it started. Who are we? And then it morphed into this uncover your divine design, uncover these things that are hiding you, these mindsets and these habits that you have from either culture, from people in your life, from different events in your life, or from just stuff, you've gone out and done yourself. And so you feel kind of crummy about yourself. We get these different thoughts from culture, and they're lies, really. A lot of them are lies. They don't match up with who God says we are. Yeah. So that's my book.
That segues great into the next question. Do you have a go-to scripture that meant a lot to you during your writing process?
Yes, really. The writing process, the living process, the just process of everyday life, right? My biggest go-to, if I had to have a life verse, it would be 2 Timothy 1:7. For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And several times a day, especially writing this book, right, I would just walk around saying that out loud. It's like, God, I know you did not give me the spirit of fear. You give me a spirit of power and love and a sound mind. That's a big one, the sound mind part. So we can do this. So that was a very big one for me. And then, of course, my book, really the driving scriptures, the driving verses that started putting these things into my mind when I started getting the book idea was Romans 12:2, and the promise that we can change. Our mind can be changed. We can be changed by changing our mind. So when we realize these thoughts that are coming in, they're like, where did that come from? And they're not true. They're lies. And you're like, where did that even start? Sometimes they start way back in childhood and you have no idea. Like children we see, not heard. That's like a biggest lie from, where. So anyway, getting off track. So another verse, though, that was really important and impetus for the book as well. I was very excited about the whole promise that Jesus came to give us abundant life. In John 10:10, he tells us the thief came to steal and destroy and to kill. And I'm kind of paraphrasing this, but but he says, I came to give you life, a full and abundant life. And so I grabbed onto these promises because when I first decided that I really needed God in my life way back in 1990, and I said, okay, God, here I am. Jesus, be Lord of my life. You know, I was so adamant to just start, sorry, but kicking butt and just really growing into this new life that he had given me because I was so excited and so different, and it's so much hope. And so I've just really carried that on, you know, all these years, these like 30 years now. But and so those two verses have kind of always been, you know, I'm going after this abundant life. I am not going to let anybody, you know, keep that from me, because it's part of our divine design, right? To have abundant life. So
true. Okay. Well, Dee Dee has informed me that the second winner of your signed paperback copy is John Lewis. So congratulations. Congratulations.
I have 3 guys that were pre-readers for my book, and they have all reviewed my book, and they're the best reviews, these men that have read my book. I'm so thankful that and he's one of them. John read my book. Yeah. So I'm glad he won one. Yay.
Well, and our visitors tonight, those that are here to support you and to learn about you, they are sending in some really great questions. So the next one comes from Rose Simo. Did you always love to write, and who encouraged you along the way?
Yeah, I think I have always loved to write. I remember, gosh, way back in junior high, just loving that part of it and overthinking it. Oh, I love making the outlines. I mean, I love how everything just looked on the page and had to look perfectly, you know, spaced and everything, just way overthought it all. But I loved it. And actually, it's so funny because I come from a small town about 3 hours west of here, Savannah, Illinois. And 2 of my teachers through the years, my mom actually worked for one of my English teacher's husband. So in junior high, I had a teacher named Mrs. Schreiner. Maybe some of my friends out there were like, yeah, we know Mrs. Schreiner. Anyway, even after I had moved away, I got married and moved away. A few years later, I don't know when Mrs. Schreiner retired or whatever it was, she had saved some of my poetry and gave it to my mom. And there was another teacher, Mrs. Bogue, and she did the same thing. It was so strange. Like years later, she shows up with these pieces of writing that she had kept of mine, which, so I guess there was always something there. And so when we moved here to we moved from Texas and came here 17 years ago, we had only one child in the house. After that, I wasn't doing all the Sunday school and children's church, all these other commitments I had. And so that's when I actually picked up, I decided to pursue that passion again, to write, and started in 2008, started with some courses that I had heard about on the radio and stuff like that. So, and the people along the way, you know, my cheerleaders are my husband, and I guess, yeah, those teachers from a long time ago, and gosh, my sisters, and I just have a lot of people. My children have just been such amazing cheerleaders for me, and yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from Donna Mandel that, Robin, I know this isn't one that you can answer. How did you decide on the cover of the book? Donna, the cover of the book, if you want to go ahead and hold up your copy, Robin, because I don't have a copy myself.
Well, and this one is different. It's the color is different, and it's not glossy. This was just one of my proof copies. So now the new ones are going to be not glossy, and they're going to be more blue than black. But this is, for now, the cover.
Yeah. No gray stripe across the top. That's how Amazon sends out their proof copies. So yeah. The cover is the brainchild of our president and CEO of Cross River, Tamara Clymer. She does the majority of our book covers, and she does such an amazing job, I think. I think she does. She questions her own ability, but I think she does a great job. So.
Yeah, and she had fun with it, and she gave me input. She was really great about that. She didn't just slap it on there and tell me, you know, that's it. So we went back and forth a little bit with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a really good question. Do you think you'll write another book? And here at Cross River, we are certainly hoping so.
What did you say?
I said here at Cross River, we're hoping you'll write another book.
That's funny because I get that question all the time. And I think I will. We'll see. I wouldn't doubt it. Now it's got to be a lot easier this time around, right? So, and it's funny, Beth, because I think it was Dee Dee, part of Cross River staff, who said to me at a marketing meeting on Zoom one time, she says, because there's all this stuff that you learn about marketing and all these tasks that I still need to do and websites and all these things, right? And so she says, you know, now that you've learned all of this, you have to write another book because now you've gone to all this work. You have to write another book so you can use it. So, yeah.
So to tack on to that, do you think it will be another fiction or nonfiction, or do you think you might try your hand at a fiction?
You know, that's a good question because I don't know. I do really like fiction. I didn't think I would be very good at it, but part of my courses, they introduced me to that type of writing as well. And so I did take a fiction course after I realized this isn't, you know, I'm kind of better at this than I thought. I didn't think I had much imagination, but I realized that I kind of do. So we'll see. I think it would be fun if there would be a way to write kind of the theme of this book and you know, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. So I distinctly like writing fiction much more than nonfiction.
Yeah, well, maybe it will be easier, more fun. Yeah.
Okay, so Gina is asking, what's one thing that surprised you during the book writing?
Ooh, one thing that surprised me. That's a good question, Gina. I think what surprised me during the book writing, I think just how hard it was, really. It surprised me because I thought that me and God were going to go into this and we were just going to duke it out with the devil and nail it. You know, I literally did because I didn't realize how deep I was going to need to go to dig out some of this stuff and how much more forgiveness I still had and so had to do, I should say. So I think that surprised me. It surprised me. It just surprised me what was still in there that had to come up. Yeah.
Andy Lee, how many writing classes did you take?
Oh, Andy, so I did Christian Writers Guild, and I started with their apprenticeship, which was a 9-month course, and then I did, I think, 2 journeyman levels, and I think those were also 9 months each. I did a fiction round and I did the nonfiction round. So, pretty much that's what I did. And then, of course, writers' conferences every year are invaluable to this whole thing, as you know, Andy. And so a lot of writing courses there as well. For, you know, you go 4 or 5 days and you get smashed with all these wonderful classes, and then you go home and implement it. So, yeah.
Well, I hear you there. It's like a brain overload right after a conference.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's see. Oh, here's I know what my go-to snack is. What's yours while you're writing and your drink? I love these questions. Thank you so much, everybody.
Elizabeth. I love you, Elizabeth. What was your go-to writing snack? Pretty much chocolate and potato chips, or olives. It would just depend on how intense things were going. I could just sit and eat a half a jar of olives. There's just something about those things. But yeah, chips and chocolate. And my drink, what favorite drink you sipped on during your writing time? I drink a lot of water, but I would do a lot of tea, hot tea. Unfortunately, I'm hyperly sensitive to caffeine, so I pretty much just have about 1 cup in the morning of half decaf. But every now and then I'll sneak in a little little 4-ounce decaf or something while I'm writing, with a little extra cream or something. But yeah, a lot of chocolate.
Well, and you're saying olives. I mean, that kind of floors me. So were they green or black?
Oh, green. Green. Yeah. You don't like olives, Deborah?
I like black olives. Okay. The green olives that I grew up with were the kind that were stuffed with pimento. And that pimento was awful. It's like,
just something. They would just hit something for me when I'm sitting there trying to, something stuck. I'm trying to write and I'm just like, and I give me that jar of olives and it just really helps.
Yeah. I like Chex Mix.
There you go.
It's there. It's easy. It doesn't. I don't have to worry about it spilling and getting into the computer. It doesn't make my fingers all yucky or anything like that either. So, and coffee definitely for me, but I've switched to decaf. So, the winner of the journal is Gina. Gina, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Pascarella Fogel.
Pascarella Fogel.
She has.
Oh, that fits her.
She has a journal, and she has a question. This is a good question, and I think probably every writer maybe has gotten to this point. Did you?
Did I ever want to give up? Yes, many times. I really did. I actually begged God, but I knew in my heart I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't give up, partly because I had already invested so much blood, sweat, and tears and time into it. But I knew that I couldn't give up. But I did. I can't tell you how many times I was like, please, God, please I literally would just say, please let me stop. Please. Can this just be, maybe I just have a bunch of good blog, material here, but no, I couldn't give up. And like I said, I did shelve it a few times. There are times when you just have to, whatever project you have going on in your life, whether it's writing or something else, you do have to give yourself grace and just set it aside sometimes when there's other priorities. And I really did try to always make my family and other things, that a priority at times. Really was, I just went family and then writing, or family, friends, and writing, depending on the day. But yeah, I tried to keep it in order so that I didn't get imbalanced there. But
and it's really easy to get unbalanced.
Yeah.
It really is. And probably that way for anybody, no matter what profession they're in, but it just seems like more so for writers. I'm not sure why.
Well, it's a very isolating, it can be a very isolating job, because you're in your head so much. And particularly with the things I was writing, I had to think back and relive some of these things and these events in my life. And it really wasn't fun, but it was needed. But yeah, you can just be a lonely thing being a writer, because no one can quite get what you're doing. They can't quite understand how much it takes out of you. And no one can do it for you, especially when you're writing your story. Yeah. And then I think, Deborah, you probably find that with being an editor, you can just keep working and working and working. You have so many projects right now, and you kind of forget to take some me time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely easy for me because I'm single. All my kids are grown, and so I don't have anybody that I need to take care of other than myself. And we grew up. I mean, age-wise, there's some difference in our ages, but we still grew up at a time when me time was, it was wrong.
Right.
No, you're being selfish. Oh, you're doing it. And so
you're supposed to be Superwoman.
Yeah. So it's just really easy for me to say, that can wait. And
yeah, I could see that. That would be easy to do.
Balance. Yeah. So, John has a question. I think probably when you got halfway through the book, you kind of got to this, right? When you got to chapter 7, you hit this unexpected discoveries, right?
Oh my goodness. There were so many unexpected discoveries. See, John's read the book, so he knows what he's saying here. So, definitely unexpected. Like I said, I got about to chapter 7 and it started changing on me. I didn't want it to, but I had to just let it go. So what happened was there were just so many things going on in my life. And God was just really wanting me to go back to these things that I had read a couple years prior about adult children of alcoholics. And when I had first read it and done that research, I stuffed it away because it scared the heck out of me, because I checked yes to probably 25 out of the 30 characteristics. I don't remember, but I was like, whew, it was too much. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I thought, oh, could that really be still affecting me? I've been a believer all these years and I've had so much healing, and I'm just, I'm happy and I'm doing fine, but then I realized that that was a lot of the source of a lot of my things, the things that I had to uncover, the victim mindset and the walking on eggshells and, not using my voice when I should be, being confident, things like that. So that was something I had to take back out. Grudgingly, I took that back out and I did incorporate that into the book. I hadn't ever intended to. I didn't want to. Not that I was ashamed of it. It was just like, no, I'm on this track to finish. I'm not, going back. So then I did need to go back into the book in the first 6 chapters, or especially the first few chapters, and add a couple little things that would make that make sense. And I also, on a side note, I guess when you're talking about revelations and things that came up, absolutely, I realized I started the book. I realized I had a lot of anger still in me toward just a lot of things, not just my dad, who did suffer with alcoholism, PTSD, and depression from doing 2 tours in Vietnam. I was ages, I think, 11 through 18, those 7 years of my adolescence were kind of tough. That's when he had just come back. So there were just these layers of forgiveness, because I had initially forgiven because, I love my dad. He was a good man, a good provider, all those things. And so when I first gave my life to Christ and decided, God, I'm handing my life over to you because I'm messing it up. So let's do this together. Forgiveness was one of the very first things. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm forgiving and all that. I'm doing this. These people and other people and other things that happen, they're not going to have any more power over me. But then as we go along, they're just like the Christian John said, especially when I'm doing the work of this book, it's revealing a lot more things to me of just loss. It's like grief that would come up, of the relationship that would have been lost, the thing, what we could have had, that kind of a thing. And so that surprised me. And what also surprised me, I realized I researched what my dad endured over there. He was a civilian in Saigon, Vietnam. Like I said, he did 2 tours. And he would tell me some of the things that went on over there, and that were really, because he had such a tender heart, and that really did bother him even when he came home too. So I researched the fall of Saigon, because he was there when the North came in and took over the South. And I just researching that and just thinking about it now is so bone chilling. What he endured as the Viet Cong marched on that city for like 50 days, bombing and doing all these things. And the fact that my dad had to leave these friends behind, these Vietnamese friends, and his driver, and just haunted him. He never knew what happened to them. We didn't have internet and all these things to try to keep up with people, and email and stuff like that. So that surprised me. Going back, I needed to do that to gain a new empathy and to realize, wow, he was fresh off of that during those years. So that really was a surprise thing that got brought up for me to be able to heal further. And I also realized that I'm not like my dad. We have a lot of similarities in our personality and in some of the darker places that we can sink into kind of easily. We kind of have a melancholy personality. So yeah, those things surprised me. And then I'm realizing as we get older, I was in my 50s by then, and that's the age my parents were when I was in high school. They were a little bit older than my friends' parents. So I'm looking back thinking, wow, if they were 55, they were handling all this, and a rebellious teenager. I was trying to handle a rebellious teenager at 55. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So lots of revelations, John.
Wow.
I could go on and on. I could go on and on. So you just have to read the book.
Well, there again, I mean, I think in a lot of your answers, you're actually answering other questions in the sense that what was the hardest part of writing? And definitely, dredging up those nasty memories that you really don't want to dredge up. For me, that's part of, for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, you wrote a very difficult book as well. Beautiful book. But yeah, Diana's question. In fact, Diana is in my book. I don't know if I name her, but she's the one who asked me. She was the first counselor I ever saw to help me figure out what I was doing. So the very first quote of the book is straight from her. Diana. So the hardest part of writing was, just I think going through that and enduring, but knowing that I was gonna be better on the other side once I went through it with God, and I took the lies I was believing and took the truth of who He says I am and this abundant life that He gives, and be able to transform that. But it was difficult. There were days when, I remember writing about something, and it was something at school, something this bully did. Anyway, it was a guy, and anyway, so I was writing about that, and it was at the time I was also seeing the art therapist. And so I just remember putting my head down on the desk, stomping my feet. And then I remembered her saying, just, get up and go, just go do something else. So I got up, got my backpack, got my journal, went out to the woods at a nearby place over here, and just walked and sat down and journaled for a while. Part of that self-care that you just have to get up and, you have to give yourself a break. So, yeah, I think the hardest part was that, and then just writing on deadline. I am not very good at writing on my own deadlines. And Deborah could probably tell you there's probably a few deadline extensions I asked from her too.
Yeah.
But people would say, my husband said, just make your deadline, make your goals, because he's very goal oriented. And, he was in the military 21 years and does very good with goals, and just set them, and I would do it. But I would put it up there on my whiteboard. Yeah. And in 6 weeks, I'm going to be here. And in 8 weeks, I'm going to be here. It's like, but it did do better with your deadlines, I think, than my own. So.
Well, it's easier to just, what's the word? It's easier to let our own deadlines just kind of blow by, where someone else's, it's a little bit different. So you had all these things up on your whiteboard, but did you have a writing schedule that you tried to keep?
Excuse me. I'd say it was a writing schedule. I know a lot of people would write, like they would go in and they wouldn't leave till they write 500 words or 1,000 words a day or whatever. But I never did that. My writing schedule was mostly just get up. There was a period of time for years I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning, and my writing schedule was until the next person woke up, or until I went to work, or because usually in the morning that's my best writing time. So really, that if I had a schedule, I guess that would just be it, to get up and write and hit the books in the morning, and so
I'm seeing a lot of comments in the thread about your olives.
My olives. That's my.
Well, let's see.
They just do something for your soul. I don't know. They just help me think.
Must be something in them. I mean, they're all different. It's what works for you. It sounds a little strange, but it works for you, so that's okay, right? Okay.
That was only the real intense days. So that I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, for the real intense times, that's when I hit the chocolate. And it's usually either a chocolate chip cookie or it's chocolate chips straight out of the bag. And
Oh, yeah.
semi-dark, so it's not milk chocolate. Give me the dark chocolate. Give me the dark chocolate. So Amanda asks, how did you disconnect from daily life to focus on your writing?
Amanda, my sister-in-law, yay. How did I disconnect from daily life? Wow. That was hard. Because as Amanda knows, there's a lot going on in my life when I was writing this book. Disconnect from daily life. Well, like I said, it was easier for me to get up when the house was quiet before anybody needed anything from me. I could just focus because I really do like the quiet. And Amanda also knows that my husband is not a super quiet person. He can be quiet, but he's a very extroverted person who loves to sing and whistle and all these things and turn on lights. And but no, seriously, to disconnect, I did learn to just go and leave the house, literally disconnect, go out, take a walk. I remember one time I got in my car, and this is when our son and his wife and two toddlers were living here for a time. And I got in my car and I went in the, what do you call it? The car wash. And I was sitting there. It's the kind where you just sit there, and all this beautiful tricolor foam hit the windshield, and it was so soothing. I'm sitting there in this quiet car. I turned the ignition off, and this foam is just like surrounding me, and it was so peaceful. And I just had to laugh because I'm like, wow, you really need a break when this is your getaway, right? You're sitting in this car wash. And so I enjoyed that so much. So seriously, just disconnecting that way. And sometimes I would just go in my room and lock the door. I literally go in the room, lock my door, get away from the computer. I pray. A lot of times I pray out loud a lot. I just talk to God like, okay, God, I'm about to lose it right now. Just help me to be nice, love people, help me to go back in there and be able to write, whatever it was that was going on. But yeah, you have to give yourself those moments, no matter what we're doing, right? Writing or just whatever job we have or whatever household we're living in, you've got to be able to sneak away a little bit. Like I said, even if you're just locking yourself in your room and getting some quiet.
I'm kind of lost with that one because my office is in my bedroom, so I have to find some other part of the house.
Yeah.
But I find myself kind of doing that same thing when with technology. When I'm trying to get something figured out and it's just not happening, I get more frustrated and more frustrated. That's when I say, okay, I just need to get up and get away from it for a little while and think about something completely different. It just does something to give relief to your brain and the whole thought process. So,
yeah.
Debbie's got an interesting question. Did you read other authors or books to help you decompress?
Yes. To decompress would definitely be fiction books. Nothing that I had to try to think, So the self-help books, I probably didn't read as much. So even just recently with the busyness of learning some of the marketing things and stuff, I've been reading, one of my favorite books is The Help. And so I got that back off the shelf and just started reading that because I just needed something entertaining, something that I like, and I can just shut my mind off to other things. So that, yeah. And what other authors? So that's one of my go-to books. I have several books on my shelf, and I found out that I really love books that have a child protagonist in them. They all have a child. Now, The Help doesn't necessarily, but all the other ones do. And something about those books, reading about children who, like Chris Fabry. I like Chris Fabry's book called Junebug. Just an adorable book. He usually has a child in it that, is having having to overcome something, or the people in their lives are having to overcome something. And so I guess maybe I can relate to them. And so definitely I decompress with nonfiction. I mean, with fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
As an editor, it's odd to say, but I actually can decompress by reading another book. Even though I spend my entire day sometimes just reading somebody else's books, I can decompress, but it's always with fiction.
I found when I first started writing my book, though, that it would be hard for me to write a book. I mean, to read a book as a reader instead of a writer, because I was enjoying the writing so much that I would actually, like with the help and a couple other books, I have 2 copies of them, because one of them I want to mark it up. So I'm like, ooh, this is really good. I like what they did here in this, this writing. And then the other one I don't mark up because I want to just read it. But I would find myself reading it as a writer. And so that was kind of cool. But then at a point you got to shut that off, because I don't want to, think. So you just, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've had some really wonderful questions tonight. Let me just scroll back up to Debbie's, and there we go. Pull it off the screen. Our final winner of the Kindle copy of your book is Kimberly Gibson. So Kimberly, what you need to do is email me at deb@crossrivermedia.com, and we will get your digital copy sent out to you. We're already at 10 till the hour. Normally we just go for, about 45 minutes, but we've had so many great questions. And Robin, it's been so good having you here tonight. Love, hearing your answers. I mean, it's just been really great. Let me see if we have any last minute questions here. We've had a lot of people saying, yes, write another book. We had somebody actually say, you need to write a book about olives.
Right.
Olives can never live that one down.
Well, if I write a fiction book, I will definitely have to have olives involved.
Yeah, you need to put that in your bio. My go-to writing stack. So let's see. We got one last question here from Viola. When it comes to writers, who is your inspiration?
Wow, when it comes to writers, who is my inspiration?
Some tough questions, right?
Yeah, it is. I don't know why that should be a tough question, but I guess because I just pay so much attention to the book that sometimes I forget who's writing it. But I would say for nonfiction, I really like, and now his name's going to leave me, Brennan Manning. Wow, the way he writes, and it's just the way he writes inspires me as a writer, and what he writes just inspires me as a person, to just grow as a person. So yeah, I like Brennan Manning, and I can't think of any more at the moment, but
that's okay. Feel free to, after the interview or anytime tomorrow, feel free to just go in and respond to any of the comments that we've had tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's been a great time. Really have enjoyed it. Those of you that have won a paperback copy, you will get it. Just be patient.
Yeah.
Be sure to email Robin. What was Robin? Give your email again, Robin.
Robin K. Melvin at gmail.com.
So, because she can't mail it to you without your address. So
yeah. And I don't have my books yet, like we said earlier. So as soon as I get them, I'll mail them right out.
So, and Jeff is asking if this is recorded. Jeff, I honestly can't answer that question. I think it is, and I kind of hope it is, but I didn't press any record button tonight. So I'm hoping that it will be on Facebook, because we've streamed live to Facebook, so it will be on Facebook, but we often do put them up later on YouTube. So I'm
surprised that's the only question he had. That's my husband. So I'm surprised he didn't try to put something else in there.
There were some other comments in there from Jeff.
Oh, okay.
I think we got pretty much everybody's questions, and some of the questions that I actually didn't bring up, it was because you answered that question in the process of answering another question. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. You can find Robin's book on Amazon.com. You can also find her book at crossrivermedia.com. It's available in paperback, and it's available in hardback and Kindle. I'm thinking, Robin, that your book is the first one that we've done in a hardcover version.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
So yeah, that's been a learning curve for us. But at any rate, everyone have rest of the evening. Enjoy the rest of the evening. And again, thank you for being here, everybody. Robin, thank you so much for being brave enough to write your book. It takes courage to write a book that opens you up to what you've opened yourself up to in that book. So it's a wonderful book. If you don't already have a copy, I would encourage you to go to either Amazon or Cross River and get a copy.
Amen.
Right. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
Everybody, thanks so much. Bye.